What's up, Wallet Monkeys? Today we're gonna talk crypto. Are you curious about crypto? Do you wanna know when the bottom is gonna be? Do you wanna know how to read cycles within cryptocurrency? This is the video for you. Okay, so let's start at the beginning, right? Like, you gotta understand, I got involved in 2017, which I was already late to the party. There was already a 2012, 2013 cycle, and of course, it started in 2009. So it had already gone through a few iterations by the time that we got to 2017. And I'm gonna refer to crypto as Bitcoin, Bitcoin as crypto throughout the rest of the video, even though there's over 6,000 coins currently, right? That are considered, I guess, cryptocurrencies. The whole thing, the whole pitch, guys, was that this was gonna revolutionize everything. It was sovereign money. It was a decentralized ledger that the central banks did not have access to. And it was created on the back end of 2009 because of the great financial crisis, which was 2006-ish to 2008. And what it proved is that the central banks would go to, unlimited extents to take care of themselves. And we've seen this now time and time again with literally every single banking bailout. So that was the attraction. I kind of fell for it hook, line, and sinker just like everybody else, thinking like, oh man, this is gonna bring back sovereignty. This is going to, fight Big Brother, the man, whatever you wanna insert there, right? But really, it was just a way for us as regular people to hedge against the system, which was completely fine with what they do now, which is called quantitative easing and quantitative tightening. Easing is we print more money. Tightening is we shrink the money supply. Well, this game then affects inflation, then affects the interest rates that you and I pay, and there's just a hidden tax on top of hidden tax stacked on top of there, right? So that was the attractor. I got involved in it and I was holding it, I was trading it, fill in the blank, right? But you gotta understand is that just like all things, that as long as it's been around long enough and the system has had enough time to understand how it's going to take over that thing, over a long enough timeline, everything gets rolled under the system. And it's kind of a bad way to say it, meaning it's a very pessimistic angle, I understand that. But the longer that Bitcoin's been around, it's now allowed bankers to get themselves into position with central bank digital currencies, as well as, now that it's gone from 69,000 all the way down to 19,000, you don't think central banks are accumulating? That's all they've been doing. This whole way down is accumulating. So now we've got central bankers that are gonna be in position, they're gonna get rid of fiat and roll out central bank digital currencies. The Bitcoin that we all thought we knew, I guess, in 2017 and people that got in beforehand, I just don't think is the same. I love the sentiment of Bitcoin maximalists that pretend like it's gonna fix everything, that pretend like it's still the same. Their response oftentimes to literally everything around the world as Bitcoin fixes is, I like the enthusiasm, but I don't agree. That being said, I think Bitcoin did its job. I don't expect anything else from it at this point. I think it shook up the system. It proved to literally the world, but mostly the United States, that you can transact outside of central banks. You can transact outside of the banking system. Asia already knew this. They work off the wallet system, and there's cash on cash payments structure systems that exist that involve no banks. So, other parts of the world already knew this, but I think the US really needed to realize this. It already did that job beautifully. Like I said, it shook up the system, and it allows us now to realize and recognize that we can have this banking piece and we can exchange value between each other in a peer-to-peer way without third-party risk, without the bankers being involved. Yeah, like I said, I don't think Bitcoin's the same that we all maybe thought it was or hoped that it would be. I think it's radically different now. So also too, back in 2017, a big argument that was still being had is who is this created by? Because it's an anonymous founder. Most likely it's a group of people. Even John McAfee thought that, RIP to John, but he even thought that it was a group of maybe 6 to 9 people that created it. Now, the origins and who created it, whether it was the NSA or Homeland Security, or whether it was just this organic, beautiful thing that was a bunch of freedom fighters that thought that they were, bucking up against the system, we still don't know. But it has opened up the floodgates to now a bunch of new things that could be the future, right? But I just, with its throughput problems, the fact that it's had 3 bugs now, one was discovered by a Bitcoin Cash developer, and the fact that it just can't scale because the more transactions that you put onto it, it just starts to bog down and doesn't move, right? So I just think with all those issues on top of the fact that it's now being seen and treated as a collectible, a commodity, just doesn't really bode for a really successful future. The final piece there that I'll talk about is the big push is ETFs next, right? And so ETFs are a means of slapping paper trading aspects on top of the asset or the commodity itself. If you go back to the silver charts, if you go back to the gold charts, you literally can tag to the day when ETFs were launched and rolled out on both of those commodities. That's gonna happen on Bitcoin. So I just think that the future is really, really uncertain with it. Like I said, I'm not really expecting much from it. Okay, so let's now talk about how can you spot the cycle. First off, a great book would be by Howard Marks. I think it's something Cycles. So that's a book you want to check out. Some other books that you want to check out is New Market Wizards. Those are fantastic books. I think there's like 3 or 4 in a series. There's the Traders series, and then there's the Hedge Fund series as well. Those are fantastic reads or listens, right? It's really hard to try and figure out what comes next in a cycle. And that's really where people put their attention, where it's more valuable to try and figure out where we are in the cycle itself. I would say start there. So for example, like we saw the top, right? Which everyone would admit that was the top now. In let's say we kind of hit the top in NFTs, I think in early 2021. And then from there, it was really like mid 2021 that we hit the cycle top everywhere else, right? And now everyone admits that, right? Like everyone across the board says, hey, we're pretty much essentially in this recession. When, JPEGs were selling for millions of dollars and there was a new NFT being spun out every week and every single YouTuber on the planet was basically selling an NFT or promoting an NFT. Famous people all over the world were promoting NFTs. Every single big brand was trying to run up and spin out a NFT. I mean, that is indicators of a cycle top or a market top, right? Every single cryptocurrency had already seen, how many X. Like Bitcoin from the start is up 69,000 X. That's a huge amount of gains that have occurred since it launched, right? So all primary coins were pumping, all DeFi summer had already happened, everything had already basically maxed out. And so all of that money now was moving. So then you saw Pokemon kind of pop up a little bit. Again, the Paul brothers helped kind of push that up, but then it had a resurgence. And then it moved into video games and vintage video games. Then it's just gonna keep moving, right? Speculators will literally just keep packing up their stuff and moving from thing to thing to thing to thing, except for right now. Because right now, it's like, we're at this part of the cycle to where everyone knows it's bad, but nobody wants to admit it's bad, and everyone's still trying to live and stretch everything off of credit. And so this is like the denial phase, and there's actually something that's called a Wall Street cheat sheet. If you haven't seen it before, we'll insert it on the screen right now. Boom, there you go. So denial is absolutely a phase. So that means that we probably haven't bottomed yet, because I could insert a million different quotes here, but the one that I like the most is Warren Buffett, is when there's blood in the streets is when you buy. Well, look around. There's not blood in the streets yet. There's not mass panic. There's not people absolutely losing their minds. I mean, in some countries, we're seeing riots, we're seeing energy issues happen, but it's not there yet. I'd say it's very close. You're gonna see like everything kind of seeming to go crazy all at the same time and everyone across the board losing their mind. That's probably the bottom. That's probably the cycle bottom. So I'd say we're close though. And that's another fallacy that I think, especially when it comes to like trading and new traders have, is that they think that you literally can catch the bottom and sell the top. Whereas there's like 80% of meat in the middle when it's like really obvious to buy and really obvious to sell is what I would focus on. And it's even a mistake that I made. So I can speak from experience, because I went through my own iterations where I was obsessively spending 16 hours a day in front of a computer trying to day trade. Then I pulled back and then just really waited and looked for the obvious signals and indicators, which is how I behave now. And I'll tell you what, from a health standpoint, you're gonna be in a lot better shape if you understand these fundamentals and then really just wait for the really obvious stuff. And the obvious stuff, it's so obvious that it almost masks itself and lulls you into thinking like, it can't be this easy. It just can't be, right? And there's been many of those over the last couple of years. Like, I'm sure you felt it too. Like, man, it's really obvious that this should happen next, right? It's really obvious that this is kind of where we're at. And then maybe you doubted yourself, maybe you second guessed yourself, allowed somebody else to kind of talk you out of this decision or investment that you were gonna do. But I can assure you, if you look back, you've probably got 1 or 2 of these over the last couple of years since COVID, right? We all do. It's not that hard to figure out. It's not like you gotta go to school or get a degree for this sort of thing. You just gotta be paying attention and apply logic and attempt to set aside your emotions, right? So anyways, we're not there at the bottom yet. When we're at the bottom, you're gonna know, because everyone's gonna be losing their mind. Again, so that's the bottom. And so tops should be really obvious too. Just look back at the last top that we saw. Everyone was going nuts. Everyone was talking about NFTs. Mainstream media was talking about it. Everyone wanted to get their hands on it. That was the top, guys, right? So now we can clearly see that's a top. We're not quite at the bottom yet. We know what the bottom looks like. So now we just wait. If you miss the absolute Bitcoin bottom and then you pay like 1,000 or 2,000 premium on top of that, but you know for a fact that, okay, the trend has changed now and the bottom is in and we're on this, we're on the next bull cycle or bull run, then that's an easy trade to make. Like right now, trying to pick the bottom is the riskiest thing you could do. And that's why most people lose trying to pick bottoms and sell tops. It just never really works that way. So what I suggest instead is just, again, wait for it to be really obvious. Like, man, it's obvious that now everything is transitioned and pivoted, and that is the risk off trade, and that is where everyone's putting their money to shore against all the other insanity going on. Wait for that to happen to where, like I said, it's so obvious that everyone's putting their money into this thing here, then get involved. Right? So anyways, I hope that helps. That's a quick history into my crypto journey, what I kind of feel about Bitcoin and where it's at now, and hopefully some insight into yourself for future, for picking the cycles. Again, look into those books. I think they're absolutely incredible. Comment below if you got something to say. That's it. We'll see you in the next one. Hey, you should subscribe. 60% of you are not subscribed yet. Right there. Okay, bye.